See the world as never before. The Living Edens, tomorrow at 4 on National Geographic Channel.
In Sicily, crime fighters had a different problem to their colleagues in the United States. American mob boss John Gotti loved the limelight, but the head of the Sicilian mafia, Totò Riina, stayed out of sight. Prosecutor Giovanni Falcone was determined to hunt him down. Falcone needed a way of connecting mafia boss Riina to the crimes carried out in his name by his army of killers. The answer lay in America. Richard Martin was a leading official in the US Department of Justice. He and Falcone had worked together for years. Their biggest success, breaking the heroin smuggling link between Sicily and the United States, known as the Pizza Connection. Falcone relished his trips to the US.
The life that he led in Sicily was almost the life of a prisoner. He went from a bulletproof car to a protected office. Instead, when he came to New York, he could go shopping, he could go to restaurants, he could come to our offices, we could go to our homes and meet our families together. And so for him, New York was like freedom.
Falcone's visits to New York were for more than pleasure. He had been greatly impressed at the state's tough anti-mafia laws that allowed the US government to target mafia boss Paul Castellano and to bust the commission.
I think it also liberated his thinking and allowed him to sort of see beyond his own sort of realm coming here. So I think he not only enjoyed it, but I think it was very good for his vision of the way that he was going to attack the mafia and the way in which he would work with Italian law enforcement.
In 1991, a new justice minister took office in Rome, determined to finally crush the mafia. He offered Falcone a job at the ministry as overlord of the anti-mafia campaign throughout Italy. Falcone jumped at the chance of leaving Palermo and putting into practice the lessons he had learned in the United States. His ideas were revolutionary. An Italian equivalent of the FBI was to be formed. Across Italy, the fight against organized crime would be centralized under Falcone's control. Riina, the beast from Corleone, felt threatened. A few years before, he had failed to kill Falcone at his beach house. Now Riina would try again. On the 23rd of May, 1992, Falcone and his wife Francesca returned to Palermo for the weekend. A few miles from the airport, several of Riina's men had placed a half-ton bomb in a drain pipe under the highway that ran from the airport to the city. The men then hid in a building above the road, armed with a remote control detonator. A massive explosion ripped open the highway. The explosion was so enormous It registered on local earthquake monitors. Giovanni's sister, Maria Falcone, was at home when she heard the news of the explosion.
When my husband told me what had happened, I rushed out of the room. I phoned the police. They told me Giovanni had been taken to hospital. When I got there, Francesca's brother told me Giovanni's dead. This was the saddest moment ever. Not only for me as a sister, but also as an Italian citizen. Because we felt that in losing Giovanni, our greatest chance of beating the Mafia had gone.
Falcone was not only a colleague, I was proud to think of him as a colleague, but a friend. I was enormously saddened, and it was as if part of what we all worked for had been lost.
Riina reputedly threw a party, toasting Falcone's demise in champagne. Along with Falcone, his wife Francesca and 3 bodyguards were also killed. Thousands gathered at the church of San Domenico in Palermo for their funeral, waiting patiently for hours in the rain. Italy was shocked and angered. It didn't deter Tito Riina. Anyone who stood in his way would meet a similar fate. In New York, the net was closing in on the American Godfather, John Gotti. This clothing store in Manhattan's Little Italy was once the Ravenite Social Club, the nerve center of the Gambino crime family operation. Gotti insisted that his crime family visit the Ravenite to pay public homage to him. The FBI had placed a surveillance team in a block near the Ravenite. This is some of the actual footage shot by the FBI. Gotti reveled in his public persona as Mafia Godfather. He made no attempt to hide the fact that he was meeting with his criminal gang.
The rest of the family was required to come down there as a command performance to meet with John, discuss business, kiss his rear end, give him money, what have you. So during the course of the week, you might have all 20 caps in the family down there on different nights, plus 80 to 90 to 100 soldiers, all standing out there in broad daylight. And for us, it was a gold mine, just seeing, identifying the entire Gambino family during the course of the week, all in one place.
Pictures, though, were not enough. To gain a conviction, the FBI also needed to hear Gotti talking about his crimes. They had bugged the Ravenite, but the mics had so far failed to pick up much. Then they had a break. An informant told them Gotti always held his most important meetings in an apartment upstairs, owned by the elderly widow of a Gambino member.